You are now watching The Meech.
The Nintendo Switch 2 has been all the Nintendo community has been talking about recently. You see it everywhere. There's so much quote-unquote news about it. You see all kinds of videos about it. And I even did a discussion with my good friend T&D about the Switch 2. He is very confident that it's releasing this year. I said 2025. We actually had a bet where if it releases in 2025, he has to eat Billy Dogs. And if it releases in 2024, I have to eat Billy Dogs. So if you see T&D eats Billy Dogs, I won. But if you see Dimitri eats Billy Dogs, unfortunately he won that bet. And what they are their Vienna sausages soaked in mayo for a day at room temperature, served in a Twinkie bun. But fortunately, our guest for today's discussion is not part of the bet. He is a fan of Nintendo, and I feel like we have a very unpopular opinion when it comes to the Switch 2. So, I'm joined by Reese, the man, the myth, the Paper Mario obsessed legend himself is here.
Yeah, and speaking of Paper Mario, that's actually going to play a role in this discussion as well, because it has to do with Nintendo's release schedule and everything. But yeah, with the Switch 2, it's kind of been out of control from what I've seen. Like, so many people on Twitter are so sure that it's going to be revealed next month, and that this month there's going to be like a Nintendo Direct Mini partner showcase. So it's just kind of crazy about like all the things that have been going out. Like, it's in all of it is coming from like just a couple leakers from what I've seen. It's not really like that concrete like it usually is. It's really like just someone who's just so sure about the Switch 2 happening next month.
Yeah, I saw what is being seen as like the de facto proof that the partner showcase is happening. This could be outdated, it'd be funny if it was, but what we're seeing is a so-called credible insider making some guesses, and I wanted to see what his track record was. So, I saw the track record, and I'm seeing stuff like, okay, he guessed that Mario & Rabbids is going to release in 2023 and gets delayed. That didn't happen. That Metroid Prime Remastered was going to happen in 2023. Now that game was being guessed for years. That's the reason why Jeff Grubb was right. He was right. He was right about everything. And it's just like, I'm looking at the track record. This is all stuff that can easily be guessed. It's like if I said, back in 2023, or if you said, hey, we're going to get a new Mario game. Pikmin 4 is going to get delayed to 2024. We're going to get a remake of a beloved classic. And there's going to be a new Donkey Kong. Half of those things came true. So guess what I am now? I'm a credible insider. Hey Kotaku, comic book. You gonna write an article based on the insider information I gave you?
Yeah, I feel like just like a lot of these like quote-unquote credible leakers really just seem to be like getting like a couple, like kind of guessing a couple things, or they're also called industry insiders from what I'm seeing. Like between Nate the Hate and Jeff Grubb and a few other of those people, like they're always like the industry insiders. They're always the ones who know what's right. Like they're always the ones to trust.
I mean, with Jeff Grubb, at least he was right about Metroid Prime Remastered, but you do have a point there. I always see those kind of insiders, and it just seems like a lot of what they do is just like, maybe they have some sources, but it's always vague. They just play an act of being an insider, and somehow they're reliable and credible, even though most of the information they get is completely wrong. When it comes to legitimate insider information, there's only one bird to trust, and that's Pioro.
Yeah.
And
It's funny because like there's all of these people claiming that they're these like industry insiders who like are the most credible people to like to get like information from, but this random Twitter account with the WarioWare bird is the one, the only one who's getting everything right.
yeah, and if Pioro says it, I mean, there's no reason to doubt him. He got pretty much everything right. I know the way he teased Mario vs. Donkey Kong and F-Zero 99 was kind of like trolling, but at the same time, he got everything right and he does have information. I think his uncle actually does work at Nintendo, but a lot of this stuff, it's just, I'm not necessarily saying it's completely fake. I do think in some cases, you know, with Super Mario 3D All-Stars, remember how that was heavily discussed back in 2020? Like, that was rumored for the longest. I do feel like in some cases, where there's smoke, there's fire, or as I say, where there's smoke, they pinch back. So maybe there's some credible sources and some merit to those. I think we might get something Switch 2 related, but I guess the reason why I feel that none of this stuff is concrete evidence, and I feel like it's not... It could definitely happen, but it's just like, I don't feel like this is locked, that the Switch 2 is going to be revealed in March. And it's pretty much because this exact same thing happened years ago. Remember the Switch Pro?
Yeah, I remember, like, between, like, it started all the way back in 2018. Like, they were first, like, kind of going over about, like, with rumors and things. First, it was, like, the Switch Pro and the Switch Mini. The Switch Mini ended up being the Switch Lite, but it makes a lot of sense why Nintendo would make a dedicated handheld version of the Switch. But then, for years after that, they just kept going on and on about a Switch Pro happening. And it never did. I mean, we got the Switch OLED, but that's not a Pro.
Yeah, that's what it led up to. All the Switch Pro rumors and the videos and stuff. It kind of reminds me of the climax to SpongeBob's Truth or Square, where the whole thing was Patchy meeting SpongeBob, and all the climax was a dream that Patchy had, where SpongeBob meets him and he just says, "Well, hello!" and then he passes out. That's what we got. We got the Switch OLED. That was the Switch Pro. And I don't know if it's going to be that case, where the Switch 2 ends up being underwhelming, but I just feel like a lot of it, especially with the videos and such, there are some channels I like that cover stuff related to the Switch 2. I like Nintendo Prime, I think his videos are good. I do think that he even has some sources sometimes. Review Tech USA have also said that I'm a fan of his channel, but a lot of the stuff, like the Switch Force stuff and very similar channels, no merit whatsoever, and it just feels desperate.
Around the clock.
Around the clock. Yeah, that one. It's just like, man, if I want some just fake articles, I just go to the grocery store and get a copy of the National Enquirer. Maybe they have information about the Switch too. But another thing about it is just like, do we even need a Switch 2? Because I feel like, yeah, by next year we do. But do we really need one as soon as possible, like so many people are saying? Because originally I was on the train where I thought that the Switch 2, we'd need new hardware as soon as possible. But after that June Direct, my opinion just changed drastically.
Yeah.
It made a complete 180.
Yeah, with the Switch 2, like, I feel like between the June Direct, like with Mario Wonder, we got a brand new 2D Mario game. I feel like Nintendo would want that game to sell while the Switch is still the main console. It just makes a lot of sense. And then also, with the fact that we have a few more games to look forward to that Nintendo has already announced, like, a while ago, like, nearly 6+ months ago for, like, a lot of these games. Like, Peach Showtime.
Luigi's Mansion 2.
They're kind of, like, hyping... Yeah, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door. Like, it seems like, even though some of these games are remakes, I feel like Nintendo wouldn't really want to stunt the sales of these games with the announcement of a new console, especially Peach Showtime. Peach Showtime seems like a pretty big project for Nintendo. Like, it's a completely new spin-off of Mario and everything, and it seems like they're definitely putting a lot behind it. It's basically the next Luigi's Mansion, and, like, from the trailers that they're showing and the amount of information that they're showing, it seems like they would want to give a lot of attention to this game. But if those rumors were true that the Switch 2 reveal would be, like, around the middle of March, like, right before Peach Showtime, I feel like that would definitely impact the sales of that. Not just because the Switch 2 would be a thing by the time Peach Showtime was happening, but also because the announcement itself of the Switch 2 would kind of, like, overshadow the launch of Peach Showtime. Like, regardless of how much marketing Nintendo puts into Peach Showtime, it's still gonna be overshadowed. So, yeah. I don't think that's a good idea, because it seems like, why would they sacrifice this big project that they've been working on for a while. Like, it seemed like Nintendo would want to put a lot of attention on a new spin-off series.
The thing with Peach Showtime is that a lot of people just don't give it the credit because, from what we've seen and just information, they don't think it's going to be a big game. And yeah, well, stuff like Zelda and Mario is always going to be much larger. It's still a pretty big game because it's a new IP, and you're right, it's like the new Luigi's Mansion where it's a spin-off of Mario, and it could become very big. We're seeing Princess Peach become a very popular character, especially after the movie, and I think they'd want to push it, but a thing that's worth bringing up is, I think if they reveal the Switch 2 this year, I don't think it'll take away from Switch game sales, because so many people have a Switch, and especially if it's backwards compatible, and if the games are enhanced too, then it should be fine. And, you know, the thing with the Switch 2 is, I feel like, yeah, I'd like to see new hardware, but I'm not as starved for it as I would have priorly been. I know a lot of people want a new Switch, but I'm just thinking to myself, I mean, 2024 has already just started off. We haven't gotten a Nintendo Direct yet. So,
yeah,
we've had years like this so many times. 2018 was Wii U ports and Smash, and the other games were on a smaller scale or just didn't turn out to be very good. 2020 was an exception, I'll give it that. There was Animal Crossing, but pretty much nothing that year. And we've had times where Nintendo really hasn't had a lot to say about what was coming, like 2023, where we just knew about Zelda and Pikmin, and then they revealed Mario Wonder and so many games for the rest of 2023 and 2024. But in terms of power and such, do you think the Switch is that underpowered that we really need the hardware now? Have you started to notice regular Switch games struggle? Because I know third-party games do, and I know the Pokemon games do, but in terms of Nintendo in-house games, that's where they really know the hardware. Do you think that Nintendo's games have started to struggle a bit?
I don't really think so. I mean, yeah, the Switch is underpowered from a hardware standpoint, but most of the game sales from the Switch are coming from Nintendo's first-party titles, and I don't think they're, like, suffering from the power of the Switch. I mean, sure, they could always look better, but I don't really think that's a problem right now. Like, when you look at the Thousand Year Door remake, that looks excellent on the Switch. And
it
that's
all comes
honestly
down to art direction,
yeah,
not just sheer power. And I think that since the Switch is HD, and considering what Nintendo's games go for, I feel like most Nintendo games look great and the Switch is just fine. I do think that Pikmin 4 and Tears of the Kingdom struggled a little bit. I think they could have looked better with new hardware and such, but not to a point where it was, like, unbearable. But that's like with any game. It could always look better with 4K and more power. But how did you feel about those two games? Because those are 3D, very large games, scale-wise. How did you feel the Switch handled Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4?
I feel like Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like it actually handled it pretty well, and I was actually pretty impressed by how big the world was, like, with the Switch, because it's basically, like, double the size of, like, Breath of the Wild, like, with the depths, and then also, like, the Sky Islands and everything. So with the sheer size of everything that is, like, kind of rendered in the world, I think it's pretty impressive. And there really isn't, like, much poppin' at all, either, because most of it kind of happens when you're, like, when you can't really see it. So I think it runs Tears of the Kingdom pretty well, and I feel like Pikmin 4 also, like, looks pretty good and it runs pretty well. There was actually a video that, like, I think a Pikmin modder made recently about Pikmin 4, but I think it was taken down by Nintendo. But they were basically, like, trying to find ways to crash Pikmin 4, but whatever they would do with the game, it wouldn't crash at all. Like, the game is extremely well optimized. So, I mean, sure, the game could always look better. I feel like even though it does look great, it could definitely benefit from new hardware. But from, like, kind of, like, optimization, I feel like it is optimized pretty well, and most of Nintendo's first-party games, not including Pokemon, they are optimized pretty well.
Hey, You can include Pokemon, because if you ignore the game, then it's optimized well. See, the thing is, I mean, with the heavy hitters, stuff like 3D Mario, Donkey Kong, I would like to see new entries in those series on a console that can be in 4K, but I feel like with this year, I feel like what we're getting so far is actually pretty solid. Maybe because I'm a Mario fan. You know, I mean, the thing is, often in the Switch's life, it just seemed like there weren't enough Mario games. And now, as Mario fans, now it's our time.
And if we did get Mario games, like sometimes, like during those years, sometimes they were hit or miss, like the Mario sports games. Like
Origami King to an extent, but I think that game is beautiful and the gameplay is great. But yeah, it just seems like, yeah, we do need new hardware, but to the point where we need to have it revealed in March, and we can't go a little longer without the Switch. I can understand why people want it, but just from a personal standpoint, I don't see that a desire just yet.
Yeah, I'm just really satisfied as a Mario fan, too. Like, we got Wonder, Mario RPG, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Peach Showtime, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and my all-time favorite being remade, Thousand Year Door. Honestly, like, that already made 2024 for me. That is already, this year doesn't even have to be that much better. Like, that game is just so good that I am just, like, really excited about it. So,
I'm very excited about it, too.
Like, I don't even mind if the Switch 2 releases in 2025. I have Thousand Year Door to look forward to. So...
And I'm sure we're going to get more games throughout the year, even if they're on a smaller scale. And I do think that this could be a really cool year to highlight smaller series and more 2D games. Then next year, they could really highlight the more powerful 3D games in 4K. And I feel like with the Switch 2, this isn't something like the NX speculation back in 2016, where it wasn't going to be a Wii U successor or 3DS successor. It was going to be something new. So there was a lot to speculate about. But I feel like with the Switch 2, it's going to be 4K probably, more powerful, have better controllers.
I would say, like, the Switch 2 is probably at least going to be as powerful or a little more powerful than the base PS4. Because I heard a lot of people saying that, like, if it's as powerful as the base PS4, it, like, wouldn't be able to run, like, many next-gen games. But that's just a lie. Because so many, or current-gen games, I should say, so many current-gen games from the PS5 actually are on the PS4. So,
it all comes down to optimization.
If the Switch 2 is as powerful, or probably, even likely, a little more powerful than the PS4, then it would easily be able to run a lot of these current-gen games on the PS5 and Xbox Series X and everything. Like, I don't think it would have that much of a problem. Because, like, I feel like between the PS4 and the PS5, that was really, like, one of the smallest jumps in graphical power we've seen in, like, video game history, I feel like. Like, I mean, yeah, there are, like, things that were upgraded quite a lot in some areas, but compared to things, like, between, like, the PS2 and the PS3, or, like, the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube, or different things like that.
It's not that noticeable of a jump.
It's not as big of a jump, so it's like, I feel like it wouldn't really matter as much if the Switch 2 is, like, somewhat powerful, but not quite as powerful as, like, the current gen hardware.
I do think at the very least it should go for 4K, and the reason being is because this is a very different time than 2017. Everybody can get a 4K TV, and they're cheap too. You can get a 65-inch 4K TV for around $300. I got mine for Black Friday, and it was $225. So 4K has become very accessible, and I feel like the Switch 2 would need to have it. It's like having the HDMI on the Wii U back in 2012, where, yeah, in 2006 you didn't need HDMI, but at this point, we need 4K just like the Wii U needed HD back in 2012. But it's
Yeah,
just
and
like,
I don't think it would be that hard to implement either at this point, because 4K technology has been around for long enough to where it wouldn't really be too expensive for Nintendo to create an affordable console that supports 4K.
I do feel like with the Switch, the reason why I think Nintendo would want to continue pushing that as much as possible is because it's cheap to produce. Because it's underpowered and because the hardware is cheap to produce nowadays and it hasn't seen a price cut, they're just getting in a lot of profits from the console alone. And that's not even including games, so I feel like they'd want to push that longer than a console lifespan. And with the Switch, I feel like there's not really a parallel you can do. Like people are saying, oh, the 3DS got remakes and that means it's over for the 3DS. No, the 3DS got remakes because Nintendo didn't know if the Switch was going to succeed, so they needed a backup plan. Oh, but the Wii U lasted 4 years, and other consoles have lasted about 6 to 7. Yeah, the thing is, that's the average console lifespan, but we've seen consoles last much longer until getting a successor. I hope it's not too long, but I feel like another year, I'm just expecting it. I'm not sure if I can confidently say I'd be happy to be proven wrong, because that would have to mean I'd eat Billy Dogs. Without the Billy Dogs, yeah, I'd like the Switch 2 to be revealed, but I'm not as hyped for it as most are. But this would be, like I said, this would be a great year to focus on some smaller series and let them shine in the spotlight. And I'm thinking of games that could come to the Switch this year. We could have a new Wario Land. That would be great to have. We haven't seen one since 2009. And since it's a 2D platformer, they'd be able to have that run on the Switch no problem. And make it look beautiful.
Yeah, I could even see like more remakes as well. I wouldn't even mind that, because we're like, that kind of makes sense for like the end of a console's like lifespan, like before the next console. So I wouldn't even like really mind that too much. But yeah, I could definitely see like a new Wario Land, or maybe even like more like series coming back as well, because it seems like Nintendo has definitely been on a roll lately when it comes to like bringing back like series that haven't gotten a new game in years. Like you could like Super Mario RPG. I mean, that's technically an example of that. Thousand Year Door is technically an example of like classic Paper Mario coming back. And then also like the Another Code Recollection, and then like even Pikmin 4. That's like 10 years since the last game. That's like they're really bringing back like quite a lot. You know, Advance Wars as well. That's another one. And then Famicom Detective Club,
Metroid Dread,
Metroid Dread, and I could keep going on and on about like the series they're bringing back. We could possibly get like a new Rhythm Heaven this year.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Switch isn't out a series to have new games for. We haven't gotten a new Rhythm Heaven. That would be great. Another one, this is getting way more obscure, but I would love to see a Game & Watch Gallery 5 that has every Game & Watch game remade and in the classic original edition.
Oh yeah, that is actually one of my I think I've brought that up before in like a few like prediction videos in the past. That is actually one of my wishes, that for a game to happen, like have it be developed by ND Cube and just kind of have like all of the Game & Watch Gallery games, plus like other Game & Watch games that haven't been remade before. You could basically make the ultimate Game & Watch Gallery.
And with stuff like the licensed games like Snoopy Tennis or Mickey and Donald, solution, just replace them with Mario characters. Mario Tennis and Mario and Luigi, there you go. But yeah, it's just like, I feel like this would be a good year to just focus on remakes and smaller games and reviving series that haven't had games on Switch. But I'm also quite content with what we've gotten so far. And
and I wanted to say, speaking of the games that we already have to look forward to, I mean, even if they reveal the Switch 2 with like more games to look forward to, in the fact that the Switch 2 won't really affect the sales of these games too much, I think it would make a lot of sense for Nintendo to reveal the console after they release all of the games that are currently revealed. Because I don't think Nintendo would want to, like, even kind of risk any of, like, even though it wouldn't be that big of a risk, I don't think they would want to bring the attention away from any of the games they've revealed last year.
I would say in the case of Princess Peach Showtime, yeah, that they wouldn't want attention away from. But I feel like with the remakes and stuff, those won't get affected too much.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, I feel like it would make a lot of sense with the way they're setting things up, that they would reveal the Switch 2 after Luigi's Mansion 2 HD in the summer. That just makes a lot of sense. Like, it feels like they set everything up to where they don't really have to reveal anything until then. Or, like, the games that they'll reveal now could possibly be for after the Switch 2 is revealed, like, whenever that's gonna happen. But I feel like Thousand Year Door HD and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, it kind of seems like those games are gonna be kind of like, filling out the schedule before they do anything with the Switch 2. It just kind of seems to me, like that might be the case. Because it makes a lot of sense if they were gonna reveal the Switch 2 in the summer and either reveal it or release it in the holiday of 2024 or the spring of 2025. Either one of those time slots makes a lot of sense. So I think at the earliest, I feel like the Switch 2 will be revealed in the summer, like around June.
Yeah, that would make sense, but I think now it just all comes down to what happens with the February Direct. We'll have to see if it's actually a partner showcase or not. But in the end, I think that the Switch 2, yeah, it'd be nice to have it, but I've just kind of accepted that I just don't think Nintendo is going to reveal it in March or as soon as we think, and I'm okay with that. I feel like it's fine just getting the remakes. This is already a pretty solid lineup, and would I like to see more new games? Sure, but I don't feel like this year is as bad as everyone's claiming it is. Like, I'm thinking of prior Switch years, and 2018, I found that to be more agonizing than this year. By far.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, at least for me, this year is already set with a certain papery game. But, yeah. Even the other games, I feel like this year is already, like, looking to be fairly solid so far, but we'll just have to see.
Probably won't be as incredible as last year, but still, pretty solid. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. But anyways, guys, I think this wraps this up. I'm Reese.
I'm Demeech.
And keep calm and stay perky.
Stay perky.
Oh, that purple toad gives me nightmares. Hey, let's ask him if the Switch 2 is being revealed. He would know.